Hey guys, it's coreross and welcome to 6 News. So today we have the designer notes for the mid-season balancing patch. This is huge news. Of course, we get these graphs, which are the ranked PC Platinum and Diamond. We've got the pick rate and we've got the win delta of all the operators. And of course, we have the attackers and the defenders, along with all the changes that are going to come with the mid-season balancing patch. So let's start with the graphs, I guess. This is always cool because we can look back and compare the previous graphs to the current ones. So let's start with Ashe. So in the last mid-season balancing patch, they removed an ACOG from one of her weapons. Of course, it was a very controversial change. A lot of people were like, she's not overpowered, but that's not the point. The point was she was getting picked 70% of the time in Diamond and Platinum ranked games. 70% of the time is a hell of a lot. So they took away the ACOG from one of her weapons, so she still had an ACOG and another gun, and it seems to have done the trick. She's dropped down 20% in pick rate, but her win delta remains very similar. And this is great because, of course, she's not overpowered, so you don't want to give her a big nerf, but you do want to get her picked a little bit less, and it's been a wonderful choice. It actually seems to have worked out really well, dropping her down 20% in pick rate and actually pulling her behind Twitch, which is great. Now moving on to other operators, Finka still has an incredibly good win rate, a little bit lower than previously, but her pick rate remains the same. It seems whoever is picking Finka are really good at playing Finka. Maybe their team composition works with Finka really well, maybe their strategies, but they seem to be doing really good. Blackbeard's win rate has had a dramatic drop, going down to 0.5 from its 1.5% before. That's quite a big change. We've also seen Dokibi's win rate go down. She was nerfed, of course. Now we've got Gridlock 2 being added to the graph. Of course, she wasn't there because she didn't exist last time. And we can see that Fuse, unfortunately, is still doing pretty bad, but he's actually managing to win more games than he's losing now. So I guess that's something, although his pick rate has got so low, I'm guessing that means that when he does get picked, people probably just aren't expecting it. And then Blitz, Capitao, Lion, and Ying are all pretty much in the same place they were before, not much change. Now Sledge, who is normally the model operator for attackers and is always in the centre of the graph, has actually pushed himself out dramatically in pick rate, along with Zofia and Hibana. My thinking is those 20% that dropped out from playing Ashe have actually all jumped onto those characters. As you can see, their win rates haven't gone up at all because those Ashe players aren't that great, and that's what pushing up their pick rate, I would think. Now, poor Jackal, he has dropped down dramatically in win rate, but he is getting picked a bit more. Maybe some of those Ashe players as well are playing him, but yeah, apparently they're not very good at playing him. We can also see that Nomad has pushed herself into potentially why she's getting a nerf. You can see her win rate has gone up and her pick rate has gone up, although she's still pretty much close to the center. But that's kind of it. The outliners aren't so bad, I would say, this time around. And yeah, quite interesting to see what happened last time and how it affected this season. Alright, let's move on to defenders. So, my god, Frost, what has happened? So Frost last time, so she went from a 0% win delta to a 3% win delta. So she's doing great, but our pick rate is exactly the same as it was before, which is incredible. Jaeger is up at 70%, and that was 60% last time. So I would expect he is in line with getting some sort of nerf to bring that down. Like again, it would probably be something like the Ashe change where they kind of make him just a little bit less comfortable to play to drop that pick rate down, but his win rate will probably stay the same. But they're not doing that in this patch. We've also seen quite a dramatic drop by Rook, so he has dropped right down. Maybe he got a sense that his ACOG was going to get stolen, so he was like, wait a minute, I'm going to lose more games so I don't get nerfed. So he has dropped down dramatically and his pick rate has also gone down quite a bit. So yeah, win delta of her Rook has gone down substantially. The other thing as well is Doc 2 has also dropped down. Now, of course, they both did have a nerf to the MP5 to reduce its damage a little bit, which does seem to have made a massive effect. So they haven't had to get rid of the ACOG at all. Just that little change to the damage looks like it's had a big change. So impressive, really impressive. They have dropped down pretty well and pretty good. And Legion is pretty much in the same place as he was. Of course, his damage to his traps was reduced, but I think that the traps really are mostly beneficial for intel gathering. So they're still absolutely brilliant at that, and Legion has managed to keep his current position from the last craft in this one. Valkyrie is doing pretty good, a good pick rate and a good win rate, so if she keeps pushing that, she might need a little bit of a nerf in the future, but for the moment she's actually doing perfect. Now poor old Clash has not managed to get herself from underneath Tachanka. This is unfortunate. She did get buffed, of course, in the last one, and it doesn't seem to have paid off at all. She's still doing terrible. She's outside the bounds of the graph when it comes to Windella, so unfortunate for Clash. Janka, of course, as well, doing terrible, and of course, Castle 2 is also doing terrible. They guys are actually almost exactly the same position as they were last time. No change whatsoever. And then Smoke has a perfect pick rate, but his win delta is horrible. He will maybe need a buff in the future because he's just not moving, which is pretty bad. Now, I will say, usually, and it still kind of is, the defender's graph is kind of all over the place compared to the attacker one. The attacker one's a bit more condensed, less kind of outliners, and we still kind of have that with defenders here. We still have quite a lot of outliners, but a lot of them are getting tighter and tighter in the middle, and especially compared to the previous graph. So Mozzie's doing perfect. Apparently he's incredibly well balanced, and he is almost right in the center. But we actually have Echo right in the center, along with Mute, Vigil, Mira, Pulse, Maestro, and Ella. So they apparently are all doing really, really good. So that's impressive, and it's impressive how they've been able to tighten up that graph in just one season. So well done to the developers there. Capcan is not doing good at all. His pick rate is horrible. I actually like playing Capcan quite a bit, and his pick rate has gone right down. We've also got Cav. She's not doing too good, although I guess she is winning more games, but her pick rate is dropping, which is not a good thing. We've also got Alibi, who's not too bad. She's somewhat close to the center. I guess she is winning more games than she's losing, so it's not exactly the bad thing. Kaid, not so good. He's losing a lot of games, and although it's not as bad as it was last season, his pick rate has gone down. And then Doc and Bandit are actually doing not too bad compared to last season. They're not moving further away from the center at least. So, I'm not sure what they'll do with them. Their pick rate could still be lower, but it's probably not, it's not freaking Jaeger level. So they're probably not going to be doing too much to change that. Let's move on now that we've gone through that. I think I'm going to have to make a video where I actually go over all these graphs for all the seasons we currently have to see how it's moved. Because we're starting to pick up quite a lot of data. And looking at, this is just my opinion on this data when we do these videos. Because, of course, there's more variables than I can take in just from doing this. But move on to the changes. So, of course, we've seen the Lion rework. I'm not going to go over all the changes because we've seen this over and over again since the Burnt Horizon season was brought in. It's been on a couple of test servers. We've gone over the changes. It's quite interesting. I do wonder, because obviously he's doing terrible right now, when the rework comes, which still seems very weak, I do wonder if it will end up being more towards the center, or if it's just going to be quite a nerf for him, but we'll find out. The Capitao rework as well is awesome. I love it. I think it's so much more consistent, much more fun to use. So I could see his pick rate go up dramatically. Right now it's really low. If it's up, closer to the center, that would be great as well. And like I say, that's been in the test server a couple of times as well. So we'll just have to wait until that becomes a live thing and see how it changes all too. And then Nomad is getting 2 really big nerfs. Now, if we look at the graph, she doesn't seem to be doing that bad. Like, her win rate is only 1.0, and her pick rate is only just, like 26% or so. So she's not that far away from the center. And, compared to like Twitch here, who has very similar win rate and a much bigger pick rate, and Twitch is not being nerfed, whereas Nomad is. So it is an interesting choice for sure. And yeah, so first of all, adding an idle sound cue to the activated air jab. So the air jabs now make a sound. I tested in the test server, and you get kind of a bit of warning of about 5 meters away. So even if you're running, you are probably still going to be able to hear the air jab before it goes off, which means you can either avoid it by taking a different path or potentially shoot it out. But this is a big one for me. Her Claymore is being replaced with stun grenades. Oh, I hate that because I love Claymores. So that is probably going to drop my pick rate down of Nomad dramatically. Two significant nerfs, I think. Now, what I am worried about, and you'll have to let me know what you guys think, is because of the actual sound on the air jab now, my thinking would be that I would actually use Nomad much more offensively. I would be firing these air jabs into objectives. I would be throwing in stun grenades and I would be rushing into those objectives. That's what I would do with this change. So obviously that's not supposed to be her purpose, but that's how I would start to play her. So I'm a bit worried. Like if she still had the Claymore, I would be much more likely to still go about anti-roamer work. Whereas I now think I would actually be getting very offensive with her. So they say in a response to the feedback about the air jabs being too difficult to counter, we added an idle sound following the gadget deployment. Our goal is to reward cautious players to spot nearby air jabs and to adapt appropriately. Now this is because of course when the air jab goes off and it stuns you, you do lose complete control of your character. Now I do wonder if this will be too big of a change. It'd be nice if maybe her air jabs did like, I don't know, 10 damage now that you get hit by them. But we'll have to just wait and see. This is one the thing, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. And that'll take a season to see. And they say thanks to her air jabs, Nomad already had 3 gadgets designed to counter flanking by the defending team. That's why they decided to give her stun grenades instead. So, just gotta see how Nomad's changes play out. Now, Ying has an interesting change. So, the cooling mechanic is switched around. So she throws out her Candela with just a quick tap. They'll now take longer to go off. Whereas if she holds and cooks them, they'll take less time to go off. I did hear a good mention that because of this, people won't be able to spam. You won't be able to just throw all the Candelas in a room and then rush in. You'll have to actually like throw them all in a room and wait, then rush in. So it could be quite a big difference in the Ying plays and the Ying tactics. So interesting to see how it's going to play out. And yeah, I'm not so sure. So just like frags, the longer you cook them, the earlier they will explode. This change should also drive Ying players to put more effort into planning their attacks and to reduce Candela spamming. So it does seem like that's what they were going with. Let's have a look at Ying. Where is she currently sitting in the attackers right here? I cannot see her frickin' icon anywhere. So yeah, Ying is actually down here. Man, that's horrible. So a -1 win rate and a pick rate of under 10%. I don't know. I think Ying players might not be happy with this change, and yeah, it might just drop her down even further. On to some good news though. So Kaid, his kick-ass shotgun DMR combo is getting a reduction in ammo, but damage and all that seems to be staying the same. However, the AUG is getting an increase in damage to 33 from 27. Great change. Absolutely awesome. That'll be that, make that SMG more useful. So yeah, that is the good news for Cade players. Now Maestro is getting himself a nerf. This is a pretty big one too. So if his evil eyes are shot with EMPs or shock drones, their bulletproof window will actually be halfway open, so you'll be able to destroy them. That's pretty awesome. Like for a Thatcher player like me, I play Thatcher quite a lot. This is going to make me taking these Maestro turrets a freaking piece of cake. So, damn. Yeah, that's a big change for Maestro, and sucks to be a Maestro main. Now, Blitz, we knew he was going to get changed, but we weren't entirely sure what was going to change about him, and it apparently is something far less dramatic than we thought. So his flash cooldown is just going to be going from 2 seconds to 7 seconds. So way longer cooldown on his flash, and they're looking to reduce the amount of frustration generated by Blitz. I don't think that's going to reduce the frustration. Yeah, you'll get blinded less, but I think he's still going to be a pain to fight against. Interesting. And then for Echo, IQ will now be able to detect his PDA, and they say they're doing this for consistency. Probably not going to be a huge problem, I would think. But we'll see. Now on to current status. So Doc and Rook. So following the amplified damage decrease, we have seen a slight reduction in Doc and Rook pick rates, as well as their win ratios, with both remain two very solid anchors who who are now closer to the overall pool of defenders in terms of statistics. And yeah, I would not have thought that that little change in damage would have made them so much more better in the graphs. Like, I'm amazed, really impressed by that. And then Ash, who of course lost an ACOG on one of her weapons, only one, she's still got one. So they say the removal of Ash's ACOG with Burnt Horizon was an attempt to reduce her pick rate. We removed a popular attachment that was unnecessary to her role as an opener. Following an impressive drop of 20% in her pick rate, she remains a very popular attacker, and her win ratio has even improved. No, it's not. Her win ratio hasn't improved, it got worse. Hold on, let me just double check this. Ash now has a win delta of 0.5. She did have a win delta of 1. So yeah, that's not correct. So yeah, her win delta, let me just double check this to be sure. Make sure I'm not going stupid here. She remains a very popular attacker, and her win ratio has improved. Yeah, it has definitely not improved. It has gone, it is now 0.5. It was 1.0. So yeah, she's dropped in win rate and she's dropped in pick rate. But way closer to the center, like much better. So yeah, interesting. So guys, that's it. That's our kind of look at this. Of course, there's a lot of information to digest. There's a lot going on there. Let me know what you think. It's very interesting to look at these graphs. Like I say, I think I'll make a video going over all of the graphs and how it changes season to season to see if they're doing a good job or if they're kind of missing out on some of the stuff. But anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.